Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co., and this is games leaving the collection for the month of September. We have 17 games leaving this month. A lot of games are leaving, partially biased by, if you watch my games leaving the collection series, or my games being added to the collection, in August, I added 9 games to my collection. Once you do the math of how many games left, how many games came in, I added 9 games, which frankly was way too many games. I came back from Gen Con, played a lot of good games recently, and that meant too many games were entering my collection, and I'm trying to always keep my collection somewhat stable. Not because it has to be at any magical number, but rather because if the collection size is always ballooning and my availability to play my old games that I love is not ballooning, how in the world am I supposed to keep up? And to that end, good games have to leave. Great games have to leave, and we have 9 games leaving my collection this month from my collection. There's 17 total games in this video. 8 of them are games that we're passing through, the games I tried and are not being added to my collection. And then 9 of them are games that are actively leaving my collection. Some of them have been there for a few months. Some of them have been there for years. Like, I got one going back like 5 years easily, if not more. Some of them are more than 5 years old. Some of these games have been around for quite some time. They're going. It's just I have to make hard decisions. It is what it is, which means the usual disclaimers for this video series. Two disclaimers, or one disclaimer and one thing to know. Though one's not a disclaimer. The thing to know is if you are a patron of the channel or you're over on Ko-Fi, I give away games every single month. So I go ahead and give away a bunch of games. Generally, to higher level patrons or Ko-Fi members will get almost guaranteed games, and lower levels are more of a general like, hey, I'm giving away a few games, and people can go ahead and enter, and I'll pick a variety of people to get games sent to them. So if you are a supporter of the channel, first of all, thank you, and you also possibly get free games. And if you're not yet a supporter of the channel, you can go ahead and do so, and there's games. Some of the games in today's video will be given away on those things. So sometimes I don't do it monthly, but I always back up. So if I miss a month, I'll just do 2 months in a row, just to make sure everyone's taken care of. So that's number one. Secondly is the disclaimer part is more that I play a lot of games. By the very nature of covering games, by reviewing games, means I play 250 to 350 new games every single year. I play a lot. One year I played almost 400 new games one year. There's a lot of new games that get played, and that means games have to come, games have to go. The level of turnover you see in these videos, don't read into it too much as far as your own personal collection or needs or what you should do. Or very often you'll see me giving a game a 4 out of 5, 3 weeks ago, and then it leaves 3 weeks later, because at the end of the day, sometimes a 4 out of 5 is not enough. If I love a game, those games stick around. The 4.5s, the 4.5s, the 5s, those are pretty safe. 4s are usually safe, and honestly, a 3.5 and below is almost guaranteed not safe, and the 4s are kind of 50-50 at this point. It's just the nature of playing as many games as I do. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into it, starting off with the games that are kind of passing through. The games I tried, I played, and decided not to add them to my collection. We're going to start off small with Star Wars Bounty Hunters. This game is charming. It's fun. I really like it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It's a charming, fun, simple game that is kind of basically lining up. You're going to be gathering bounties and then lining up to try to fulfill those bounties. It's a cute game that is a good filler game. For me, the main reason this is not sticking around is I think Splitto does it better. Splitto to me is the same kind of game as far as how you're gathering objectives and ways to fulfill those objectives, but Splitto I think for me is just much more, it's more of a collaborative nature, and it's a similar vein. I just like Splitto better, even though I do like and enjoy Star Wars Bounty Hunters. We have Flowers over here. Flowers is going to be coming to you from Lookout Games. This is a Mandala game. It's in the Mandala universe. It's a cute game designed for 2 to 4 players of gathering. I think it's 2 to 4. 2 to 4 players where you're going to be gathering. You're trying to compete over various flowers to get those flowers and then put them together to score groupings of flowers, kind of. I'm not explaining this very well, but ultimately you're trying to play cards 2 mandalas. There's 3 mandalas in play where you're competing over those flowers, and it's kind of a tug of war of trying to figure out the right way to play your cards and get what you need. I thought it was okay. I wasn't overly impressed with it. It was not a bad game. It was not a particularly amazing game either. Then we have over here, we have one of the bigger ones, is going to be Planta Nubo. By the way, I should say, I think everything in this video is eligible to be given away. Some of the times in these videos, 1 or 2 games I either gave to somebody else or committed, or sometimes like it's a $400 game, and that I am a little bit more, I do try to sell those if I can, but I think everything here is being given away. Anyways, we have Planta Nubo, which I always call Planta Nubo, but it's Planta Nubo from Devere Games. Not the first Devere game that's going to be in this video. Actually, there's 3. Oh my gosh. There are 3 Devere games in this video. There's actually 2 Lookout games now that I'm looking at this as well. There's games. Anyways, back to Devere, back to Planta Nubo over here. This one is, I was hoping to love it. I like it. I think it's a good game. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It's got a lot of mechanisms going on that can be really rewarding, really engaging. It's got that Uwe Rosenberg spark to it, but ultimately it doesn't deliver to me the same way other games of his have. I think that I don't see a world in which I pick this off the shelf over Feast for Odin, over Caverna, over other games that he has. And so for me, this is a very good game that I was very excited for and walked away just thinking it was very good. And very good for an Uwe Rosenberg game is just not good enough. There's not a world in which I pick this off the table compared to other heavier Euro games. And so Planta Nubo is sadly not sticking around. We have Mycelia over here. Charming little game. Charming game of intro to deck building. I think it's a fun game. I've enjoyed playing this. It's got a good solo mode. It's got a head-to-head mode. It's got an advanced and a basic mode. It's a great game to introduce people to deck building. My kids already are introduced to deck building and like deck building, and so this is good. Like, I could easily put this on the shelf and it would be a good game whenever it was being played. But again, see previous comments about always trying to keep a somewhat reasonable sized collection, and when I'm thinking about which games are already available, which games, like, I could play this, or I could play more Harry Potter Hogwarts deck building, which I already love and think is great. So I could do that, and I still haven't played the expansions, and I should play the expansions. I really should play the expansions for that game, but Mycelia is a great game that in a different world with less games, I would easily keep it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It's a great game. If I didn't have more games, I would keep it, but I do have more games, and so it's not. Also, you might notice, like, small distinction over here. When we have, like, Planta Nubo, and I'm like, it's a 3.5, I'm kind of disappointed by it, and we have Mycelia, it's a 3.5, it's a great game, I'd play it. A lot of that comes down to where the game is, or what type of game it is. A game like Mycelia at a 3.5 out of 5, it's a lighter game, and it's a game that I could table more, I just have too many. Versus Planta Nubo, in the heavy Euro genre, I have so many games that are Mycelia, there's never a world in which Mycelia was going to be a 4 or a 4. A 4 could have been. There's never a world in which it would be a 4.5 out of 5. The type of game it's being, it just wouldn't hit those numbers. So a 3.5 for the genre as is very good. With Planta Nubo, that's a game where I have so many Euro games that are a 4.5 or are a 5 or even are a 4. And to that end, a game that's a 3.5 out of 5 doesn't have a chance of competing against those games when these are all the game night. These are the game night experience, the game you're spending 2 hours playing that night. Mycelia plays in 35 minutes. So that's why 3.5s are not all created equal. The 3.5s that are in my collection are almost always going to be lighter games that are easy to table. Versus once you get to the heavier games, you really gotta be a 4 to stick around, and possibly even a 4.5 in many cases, because those just take so much more time to learn, to teach, to play. They have the potential to be better experiences. That's why you might hear me talk about a 3.5 in 2 different categories in vastly different ways. We also have over here Risk 2210, another 3.5, partially driven by nostalgia. It might have been a 3 if not for the nostalgia element, but nostalgia is still part of my experience. I can't eliminate the experience I've had, and so the experience I had is I loved playing this when I was younger, and so I dove back into it to see how it held up, and my kids loved it. I played with my kids because I grew up playing this Saturday afternoons, and it is a good game, but it is too long. I think I played this game a ton, and I do not think I finished it a ton. I think I played it and then didn't finish it a lot of times, and that's because it's just too long of an experience for what it is. I think this faster area control games, like I think in my review I mentioned Nexus Ops as another possible game that you can play, and that'll give you that head-to-head experience, but just in a better gaming experience. So that's Risk 2210, not one I need to play, but hey, one that I otherwise would be excited for. We have Neom over here. Neom is going to be a letdown. This was a letdown for me. Neom was unfortunately a letdown. This one's, okay, so I guess that's interesting. How do I define what was in my collection or not? No, this was in my collection. I'm just looking at what was, this was in my shelf of, not shame, I call it, shelf of shame. Yeah, I call it shelf of shame. I don't do the shelf of opportunity. This was on my shelf of shame for years. I wanted to play it years ago, just never got around to it, and it's here now, and I finally got a chance to table it and play it a few times. It was also on BGA, which helped, but I actually played it, I meant to play it, it's actually funny, the timing of this is funny. So the way it worked out, I had this on my shelf for years, read the rules a long time ago, never actually tabled it. Then they put it on BGA, and I read the rules because I was like, great, I'll play it on BGA, it'll make it easier to play, review, cover, and then later that night, I had a friend over, and we were like figuring out what game to finish up the evening with, and I was like, let's play Neom, because I literally just read the rules that day, and we sat down and played it. And then I proceeded to play it a bit more, a little bit on BGA and in person, just to flesh out my plays. But it's funny, because the BGA introduction is what prompted me to play it again in person, though. But either way, Neom, it's a fine game. I would never pick this game over Seven Wonders. I wouldn't pick this game in general. I think I find elements of this game fun, but overall, as a package deal, I'm kind of like, I don't love it. Like, from all the games we talked about today, like, Planta Nubo is hard because I'm thinking about it in the vein of compared to other games, but, like, this is the only straight-up no so far. Like, this is, I just wouldn't play this. In a world with no other games, I would, but in this world that we live in, this is just not on the menu at all, versus everything else is more like, other games are better. Even Risk, like, if I didn't have other games, I had fun playing Risk growing up. I would have fun playing Risk now. It's too long for what it is, but it's still fun. Neom was not fun enough for me, so that's what we have over there. We got two more in the category of passing through games. We have Reality Shift over here, Reality Shift Deluxe from Academy Games and Apollo Games. I wanted to like this game. I thought it was a very clever puzzle of, you know, kind of cubes. You're riding up cubes with magnets. Ultimately, the experience was a bit of a letdown. You kind of need the deluxe part of this because this has a basic version and a deluxe version. You need the deluxe stuff to make the game even playable, in my opinion. Playable is a harsh word. To make the game go from bad adjacent to tolerable, you need the deluxe stuff. But even with the deluxe stuff, the game concept is a good concept. It's a good concept, but ultimately it doesn't work because your cars are dying all the time. You can't really make progress. It's a game of just constant resetting. It's a game I really want to like, but unfortunately am left wanting on. And then lastly, we have Stamp Swap over here, the newest Stonemaier game and one that bounced off me decently. It's not bad. It's really not bad. It's just not good enough. Stonemaier has actually been on a bit of a roll recently with the Apiary and Expeditions, were the last two games. Loved both of those. I thought they were both amazing. Are those the newest things they put out? I think so, right? Maybe. Stamp Swap is good. It's a good game. I think it's nothing wrong with this game, but it didn't land the same way others have. And it does have some elements that I really do enjoy. The point scoring variability. You can check out a gameplay on the channel. You can check out a review on the channel. I think it is a fine game. But Stonemaier, I don't know. I think it's a fine game. I think it's a fine game. There are many other games that do this better. A good example for me is Art Society. If you want a game that feels like Stamp Swap, but is so much better, check out Art Society from, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on them. They make so many games. They make Fate Forge. They make the Hamlet game. Board and Dice. Board and Dice. There we go. No, that's not Board and Dice. No, Board and Dice is the wrong one. Oh my gosh. Why am I blanking on who makes Fate Forge and who makes Art Society? Can I see Art Society from here? Can I cheat? No, I can't. Where is Art Society? That's a different question entirely. Because I don't see Art Society. It must be on a shelf somewhere. Anyways, what's the name that's going to bother me? Fate Forge is not made by Board and Dice. It's made by... Oh, this is going to drive me nuts. This is gonna drive me nuts. This is gonna... Mighty Boards. Mighty Boards. There we go. Okay, sorry. It was on the... I couldn't stop. I just couldn't. I mean, I could in theory, but I couldn't stop at the same time. Mighty Boards. Mighty Boards makes Art Society, and I think that's going to give you the same puzzly feeling as Stamp Swap, but look better, play better, is better. Check out Art Society. I think it's a great game. I think Stamp Swap is a good game. And I don't actually know the public opinion on Stamp Swap yet. I know my own opinion. I don't know what the general ecosystem thinks of it just yet. I think it is a good game, and I think I would rather play other games over it. From there we move to the 9 games that are leaving my collection. As I mentioned already, if you watch my games being added to the collection in August, I added 9 games total. By the way, sorry, I added 15 games total. It's only 9 once you factor in that like 6 games left. So I'm trying to catch up and get ahead. I will say this list is divided into... You know what? Let's divide it up. I'm gonna go through the easy ones first. I'm gonna save the last 3 for last because the last I'm gonna save the last 3 for last. I'm gonna save the hardest 3 for last because I think I am comfortable enough with 6 of these choices. And the other 3 are me being a stupid person who wishes I played more games. And I play a lot of games, but I wish I played more games or more games that I already own and love because I'm having second thoughts right now. I don't know. Anyways, let's go ahead and get rid of the easier 6 first. We're going to start with the easier ones. First of all, we have this one over here, Safari Witness. This is the most recent addition to the collection over here, but ultimately, it's one that I do enjoy. I think it's a good memory game. I think it's fun. The biggest problem I have is a weird one, which is I like this game, but I mostly play with my kids. It's a fun memory game that, for me, the only memory game I've ever really liked until now is Leo the Lion, which I think is fantastic. This has a fun memory aspect to the game, and I think it's a good puzzle that's all about the memory. The main issue I have with it is I exclusively play this one with my kids. Well, not exclusively. I think I played it once with my game group, but I primarily play with my kids, even though you could play this one with your game group, but because it's more memory-based, my group will play other stuff. And so the issue I have with this one is that my kids don't love the art. They find it to be very Five Nights at Freddy's, and they want the same game with different art. So the issue here is it gets played a bit less because the art is a little bit more scary and creepy. But other than that, it is a good memory game. but easier one to get rid of over here. We then have Cheating Moth from Devere Games. So I said Devere has a few titles over here. Cheating Moth from the other one. I think Cheating Moth is delightful. I've had fun playing this. It is a little bit more gimmicky. The aspect of the way Cheating Moth works, where you're trying to literally drop cards on the floor and stuff like that, it's very fun. It has its party element to it, but it doesn't get pulled off compared to things like Cockroach Poker from Devere. Cockroach Poker is amazingly fun all the time, and Cheating Moth is like, hey, let's try this game and have fun with it. I mean, that's every game. That's every game. Cheating Moth is more about the gimmick than the actual game, if that makes sense. And while that has resulted in a lot of fun gameplay, it does get pulled off the shelf less and less as time goes on. Then we start moving to already the harder ones. These are the only two easy ones. Next up, we're going to give you Fields of Arle. We have another Uwe Rosenberg game in the collection today. Fields of Arle is another two-player game that's going, I think it's two-player, 1 to 2 player game of building out your board. It's very similar to A Feast for Odin in the way the game presents itself, in that whole, like, you know, worker placement with 7,000 worker placement spots, but a very different engine past that general commonality. I haven't played this one in a long time, but when I think of the fact that, like, I got this, the reason I got this back, because I had played it a while ago, and I thought it was okay, didn't wow me. But then I played Feast for Odin again and again and again, and it very quickly became one of my favorite games last year, and it still is one of my favorite games. I think Feast for Odin is amazing, and I was like, I have to get Fields of Arle and play it again. And it's been a year and a half, and this has not been played, and I don't know if I'm going to play it. I'd rather play more, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I'd rather play the expansions for Caverna over Fields of Arle. So when I pulled this game off the top of that shelf, it destabilized the stack, and some games fell on the floor. So I'm going to have to get up and get those, but I will do that last. Anyways, Fields of Arle. I'm not compelled enough to table this one, comparatively speaking, and I realized that this was really just the love for A Feast for Odin manifesting in me trying to get more Uwe Rosenberg games, even when I'm not playing the ones I have enough. I want to play more Le Havre. I want to play more Caverna. Heck, I'd play more Agricola over Fields of Arle. So common sense is back on the table, and Fields of Arle is not going to be kept. Then we have, let's go with this slightly. We're going to go in order of what's hardest to least hard over here, or least hard to hardest. We're going to start next up with Terrorscape over here. Now, Terrorscape's an interesting one as far as where this falls. This one is arguably not in the collection. Depends how you define it. I had an initial play of Terrorscape, I want to say April, like a few months ago. I played Terrorscape for the first time, maybe May, I can't remember exactly when it was, but ultimately I thought it was a good game, and I was like, you know what, this gets temporarily added to the collection. And added to the collection is a rough terminology. When I'm doing my games added to the collection video, I usually talk about how sometimes the game is kind of in a medium space where I'm not yet sure, but if I liked it enough, I'll like mentally put it in the collection, and if I play it more and it goes, then it was just this weird transient state. And this is in that weird transient state. When I first played Terrorscape, I was like, good, you know, I like it enough, let's see how it goes. The more I played it, the less compelling I found it. I thought it was a very good game initially, and as I played it more, I still think it's a good game, but not one that I need to own when I have games like Mind Management instead. I love Mind Management, my favorite hidden role game. I think hidden movement game. Terrorscape is good, not as good as that for me. For you, it might be amazing. It's been very well received. Very good game. I give it a 3.5, but I think in general that's a very low rating for the game compared to the overall way this game has been received. But yeah, I played it more, and now it's leaving, so that's an easy one as well. Then in slightly harder mode, we move into Lords of Hellas, which fortunately did not fall because it has miniatures galore. Lords of Hellas, this one is finally leaving. And I don't know what's going to happen with Lords of Ragnarok, not yet. One of the things I've said in several videos by now is I play less area control games than I used to. There was a time when area control was my group's bread and butter. That is what we tabled day in, day out all the time. And some games are safe from that shift away. Rurik is never leaving. Cyclades is never leaving. Kemet is probably not leaving. Blood Rage is probably not leaving. Some games shift around in different ways, and when I say never, by the way, I just mean never based on my current headspace. Those things change, and it's not actually a guarantee. There's no such thing as a game that's never leaving. But in any case, there are so many area control games, and I don't table them enough. DEI is never leaving. I love so many of these games, and they're great experiences. And Lords of Hellas is very good. Very good. But it's not going to hold up against some of those others. And so I think Lords of Hellas for me is, especially because I have Lords of Ragnarok 2. Now, I still haven't decided and figured out what to do, because honestly, as much as I do like Lords of Ragnarok, it is lower than I think every one of those games I mentioned. Like, I would rather play all those over Lords of Ragnarok, and so it's still in a slightly weird space as far as where I am on this game. But ultimately, because I have Lords of Ragnarok, Lords of Hellas is definitely leaving. Lords of Ragnarok is still safe for now. And now, I'm going to go and get up from the table and get the 4 games that dropped on the floor. Because we have 4 games over here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to just be right back with you. Starting off with one that decided to pop open over here, so I'm going to have to figure out how to close this back in later. we'll do this right now. Let's see. Oh dear Lord. Oh dear Lord. We're gonna just put things down over here. We're gonna close it out over here, and then just, you know what? We're just gonna dump the whole thing. We'll keep the cover for you because it all needs to be sorted back in. For Humours. For Humours from Adam's Apple Games is a delightful game. I remember covering the prototype. Really like this one. The problem is it doesn't get tabled. This is a very, very fun game that doesn't get tabled enough in my group because I don't know why. I don't know why. It's a Prisoner's Dilemma board game where it's all about trying to figure out what players are going to do and then tanking them a bit. So maybe it's just that. Maybe it has as many feel bad moments as feel good moments. I love the puzzle of it. It's a game I'm always happy to play. I don't know. I'm a little sad about this one. Not as sad as I am with the last three, but I'm definitely a little sad about this one. I think For Humours is a delightful game, and I wish it were getting tabled more, but decisions have to be made. And then we move to these last three. These last three are all games that I've been giving the stinky eye to over the last, I don't know, 6 months or so. They're all games that I've debated getting rid of because I don't play them enough compared to other Euro games. They're all mid to heavy Euro games, and I don't play them enough compared to my favorites in the genre. But this is a genre that, similar to Area Control, the amount of midway to heavy Euro games I have that I love is much higher than the amount of time I get to play them. And that's true for both Area Control and for medium to heavy Euros. And so in particular, these are all games that you will hear me sing their praises. You will hear me sing their praises in past videos. You'll hear me sing their praises in future videos. They are excellent, excellent games. I just don't know what to do. I just don't know how to keep up with everything. And so I do the best I can. These are all hard games to get rid of. They're all hard games. The problem is, they're also games that in order to play them right now, I'd have to reread the rules. I'd have to refresh myself on the rules because it's been so long. And when a game hits that point, then it really is. Like, if it's just about keeping more games, I'd find the shelves. But if I don't have perfect recall, and because I don't have perfect recall, the games that get played the most have that effect where they get played again the most. And the games that shift to the edges, where they don't get tabled as much, those games do have an effect where, because they're now on the edges, they don't get tabled as much. The only reason that I could justify having these games is in case somebody is visiting who knows the game and can immediately get it set up and going, and because I have it, will play it. And honestly, board game conventions can fill that gap just fine. These are all games I would happily play. It's hard. But shelf space is at a premium, and more importantly, game time and mental headspace are at bigger premiums. And so these games are leaving. Easily 6 months ago, I wanted them to leave, and then held back and pulled myself back from it, and now it's time for them to go, because they're not getting tabled, unfortunately. So, we have, and these three they're no particular order. They're all amazing games. They're all things I'm sad about. I may get these games back one day. I make no guarantees. I don't know. But we're going to start off with Lacrimosa from Digger Games. A delightful game. I give this a 4.5 out of 5. It is hard to get rid of this. It is hard to get rid of this. Honestly, I think I'm getting rid of two 4.5s and a 4 right now. So I probably should start with the 4, but I like Lacrimosa a lot. I think it's an excellent, excellent game. This is hard. This is hard. It's just there's too many good games. Every year we find new games, and every year more games come out that give you excellent experiences. I love finding an excellent experience. I love it. But like, you know, what was that? Oh my gosh! Like, what are the new experiences? The new Euros I found this year. Like, we have Wayfarers of the South Tigris is amazing. Evenfall is amazing. I still haven't reviewed Evenfall, but I should. There are so many great games, and then some of those great games will become favorites and regulars in your collection, and others not so much. And I don't know what to do with Lacrimosa, but Lacrimosa is sadly leaving. It's a great game, though. It's a really, really great game. I don't have any words for these. Like, honestly, all three of these are going to be sad. Lacrimosa is a great game. It's got a great card mechanism. It's got a fun little board to play around with. Lots of the acceleration of the sort of deck building and hand management. It's a great, great game. It's leaving my collection, sure, but I cannot stop talking about how good it is. It is a very, very good game. The next one, we're going to go with the 4. I'll say the 4.5 for last. The next one is another one over here, Carnegie from Quined. Another great game. A game I wished I played more. It does help that this one is on Board Game Arena. So the fact I can play on Board Game Arena makes me feel a little better. It means I can tell myself that it's not really goodbye forever. It's just goodbye to the physical copy of the game. I forgot this was just a box that was meant, so it wasn't very stable. Carnegie's great. It's a great game. I think it's from Quined. Well, I know it's from Quined. It's a interesting mechanism of every action you choose will apply to other players. So it's all about trying to choose the action that will help you the most based on your current situation, and not as much the other players, even though they'll get it too. So it's kind of an I follow game. I think there's only 20 actions throughout the whole game. It's been a while since I played it. It's a really, really solid game. I will play it on Board Game Arena if I play it at all, because this one, again, this one is the easiest one. I just know how much I enjoyed it, and I like Quinette in general. I like Xavier Georges, which I think this is his. Yep, this is Xavier Georges. I can't keep them all. And then lastly, another 4.5. Honestly, the one I'm probably most upset about is Gentes from Stefan Rostos. Gentes is a delightful game. It's from TMG and Game Brewer, two companies that are now both out of business. Although this game has just gotten a new version as well. There's a new version of the game that just came out, so if you want to check that out, there is a way to get this game, either this version or the old one. It's a great, almost reverse worker placement game, but it really is very well done as far as how the game operates, and it's very challenging as far as competing different tracks and your skills in different tracks and the way the game works there. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy Gentes. This is the one I have like the most doubts on, but honestly, that's not true. Lacrimosa is just as bad. This one, Carnegie's Carnegie is a little easier, but Gentes and Lacrimosa are just two games that just are suffering the reality that there's never going to be enough time to play everything, especially combined with playing all the new stuff at the same time. And so it is what it is. These are the 17 games, plus one on the floor apparently, 17 games that are leaving my collection for the month of September. It is a hard month. It is being challenged by the fact that this last month we added a lot of games, and so that pushes me to look a little harder and be realistic with myself about what I want to play versus what I'm actually playing. A big thing for me is that, and honestly, to a certain extent, something like Cheating Moth, I have almost more doubts about than Carnegie. Carnegie hurts more because it's a better game. But Cheating Moth, because of the fact that Cheating Moth could be pulled off the shelf and played at any point, there is that part of me that wonders, like, do I really need to get rid of this? Because I could just pull this off and I'll be ready to go in 30 seconds. And that means that it doesn't take up a lot of shelf space. It's easy to pull off and play. It adds more variety to my game collection. Do I need to get rid of this game? Versus Carnegie, once you get to a point where you don't know the rules, it's going to be harder. So that's a different conversation. But a big thing for me is realistically, do I think the game is going to get tabled? Do I think amongst all the games, do I know it well enough? Will I know it well? Will I know it well enough? Are you really representing more potential gameplay, or are you just representing another game that I want to play but won't? And those are just hard decisions. There's a lot of good games on this table. Every month there are, but this month more so than several months now. Like these three games, Carnegie, Lacrimosa, and Gentes, are all, I mean, Lords of Hell is two, honestly, in the area control genre. There's four amazing games, and for Humours. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to leave. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to go mourn somewhere else. Until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.